Hello, Mike Keenan, KM Fitness from Manasquan. A few minutes ago, you just saw me do my burst training on the elliptical. And I want to reinforce a few of the points that we discussed while I was actually doing the training, because quite frankly, I was a little out of breath when I was speaking to you last. We were talking about burst training. Burst training takes place over 12 to 15 minutes, and you're going to do 10 to 12 second bursts. Now, I mentioned on the video why we pick 10 to 12 seconds. Okay? And the real reason for that is this. We know that an all-out burst can't last longer than 10 to 12 seconds. If you look at the world's fastest man, Usain Bolt, who won the gold medal in both the 100-meter and the 200-meter sprint in the 2012 Olympics, if you look at his split times, okay, every 10 meters, he actually hit his maximum velocity or his maximum speed somewhere around 40 to 50 meters into the race. And then he had a slow decline of speed all the way through the 100. Okay? So what does that tell us? That tells us that the fastest man in the world can't even hold a full maximum contraction, voluntary contraction, for more than, say, 5 to 6 seconds. And then he starts to decay. We want that immediate burst because by doing an immediate burst on either the treadmill, not the treadmill, the elliptical or the bike, I'll get to the treadmill in a second, we can change speeds instantaneously on the elliptical and the bike. The treadmill is going to take a couple seconds to actually speed up, and we lose that initial burst or that initial fight or flight response waiting for the treadmill to speed up. So that's why I'm telling you that in order to do this properly, you have to be on a device that allows you to change speeds instantaneously. Now, some of my clients have asked me, well, what about going down to the boardwalk and jogging and then going into a 10 to 12 second sprint? That's different because now you're not on a machine, you're running, so you can actually change speeds instantaneously. I have a friend who's a fitness model. She goes to the track and she sprints on the track, and that's how she does her burst training. But again, you only want to go 10 to 12 seconds. If you try to go 30 seconds, you can't hold that contraction that long. Therefore, you're not going to get the benefit of doing an all-out burst. You're going to go maybe to 85, maybe 90% of your capacity and then start to decay. I want you to go to 100% of your capacity before you start to decay. Okay? So what's going to happen during that 10 to 12 seconds? What are the important things that happen? Okay? Well, the first thing, you're going to get an immediate increase in the adrenal hormones, okay? And we know that doing this type of burst training, the long-term effects is a decrease in CRP. CRP is called C-reactive protein. It's one of the things they measure when someone has a heart attack. It's a marker of inflammation in the body, but it's more than just a marker. It's actually a cause of inflammation in the body. High CRP levels will increase other pro-inflammatory compounds like interleukin and cytokines, okay? So it helps to decrease CRP and also helps to decrease chronic inflammation. And this is important for my clients who are on hypertension medication or people who have arthritis, okay? These are the things that you need to know in lowering inflammation in the body. And I think pretty much all the studies are coming out now telling us that a lot of the chronic disease that we face today has to do with chronic inflammation. Okay, what else is this type of training going to do? Well, it's going to send a very positive or very strong neurological signal to the brain and nervous system that we need to increase our workload or increase our work capacity. The brain in turn is going to turn around to the muscles and target the muscle cells, and you're going to start to get an increase in mitochondria. Mitochondria is where you convert fat and oxygen and sugar to energy. It's a conversion process, kind of like putting water and coal in a locomotive and creating steam. We put fat and oxygen into the system, and we get out something called ATP, which is the monetary exchange that the body uses to push, pull, lift, and carry. Okay? What else is this burst style training going to do? With the release of the adrenal hormones, you're going to get an increased liberation of stored body fat. Okay, now it's an important concept I'm going to touch on when we talk about walking or post burst training recovery. So we're going to liberate a lot of stored body fat. We're going to release certain enzymes and certain hormones that help to release stored body fat and also help in the metabolism of stored body fat. And again, we're going to decrease stress on the joints, and we're going to increase bone density, okay? The reason being is that when we decrease the stress by using the elliptical or the bike, there's not that opening and closing pounding of the joints, okay? But there is enough stimulation to the bone to cause an increase in bone density and bone growth. So here we go, 12 to 15 minutes. After that, what you didn't see on the video was me walking over to the treadmill. I watched the end of the women, the Canadian and the U.S. women in their overtime hockey game today. It was a great game for those who didn't see it. No spoiler alert here. You'll have to tune in tonight to see how the game turned out. So then I went on the treadmill and I did 20 to 30 minutes of recovery walking, and I went at 2.5 miles an hour, and my heart rate did not go over 110. My heart rate was probably about 105 while I was walking. So why did I continue to walk? Well, one of the things that I was trying to do was I was trying to decrease the amount of cortisol. Okay? Cortisol and insulin equals fat storage. Cortisol and human growth hormone increases muscle gain. Okay? So we decreased my cortisol. I decreased my hunger. Okay? I helped to burn fat that was liberated by the burst training, and I allowed a parasympathetic response. This side of the coin is a sympathetic response. It's an increase. Okay, this is where I get excited, and all the positive charged ions are hitting me to allow me to run fast or fight off an enemy in a fight or flight response. Now I've survived that fight or flight response, and now I'm going through a parasympathetic recovery, and it's at that time that I get a release of the healing compounds, the testosterone, the human growth hormone, and other tissue repair hormones that in the past, in my prehistoric days when I was fighting off an enemy who was trying to steal my food, or fighting off a wild animal, I might have suffered some type of injury. The body now has to heal itself. So it's in the release of these healing compounds that we get stronger and more fit. Okay? If anybody has any questions or concerns with regards to what I'm talking about with burst training. Oh, the other question that came up is how many times a week do I do this? For newbies, let's do this once a week. For people who are conditioned and are already exercising, you can do this twice a week. I would never do this more than 3 times a week. As important it is to train hard, it's also important to rest hard. Okay? Because you don't grow when you're training, you grow when you're recovering. Okay? Any questions, give us a call at KM Fitness, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.